Hello and welcome to a new week and a new episode of Rams Revealed. Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Aaron Donald. If you haven't yet, be sure to add that one to your queue. It's great to catch up with the best defensive player in football. The problem, though, how do we top that? Tough act to follow, to be sure. Thankfully, the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams is on deck, and we're going to ask Sean McVay about the plan for the draft. Plus, we'll run through the team's offseason moves, including the release of Todd Gurley. But first, I hope this podcast finds you and your loved ones in good health as we continue to combat this coronavirus. Special thanks to those of you on the front lines of this crisis, the medical professionals and researchers, government officials, emergency service providers, grocery employees who I encounter day to day, the delivery men and women. Our trash is currently being picked up as I look out my window. The mailman came today. We don't take things like that for granted, certainly not in times like these. And for those of you who are in a tough place, maybe out of work or dealing with health complications, please know that the Rams family is rooting for you. And we hope that the next 20 minutes provide a break from those struggles and brighten your day. With that, we're joined by the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, entering his fourth season, and one that will look and feel dramatically different for many reasons. Sean, it's great to connect with you. First and foremost, how are you and your loved ones?
Yeah, we're doing great, JB. I mean, certainly our thoughts and prayers are with all the people that have been directly affected, and the appreciation for the amount of people that in the medical field that are working diligently to try to come to a solution so we can try to get back to some normalcy. But fortunately, it's a blessing that my family is all healthy, and certainly trying to just follow the guidelines and abide by the things that we're trying to do to get part of the solution.
What have you observed? What perspective have you gained from these recent weeks as this pandemic kind of wreaks havoc on our society?
Yeah, it doesn't even, JB, the thing is I haven't really been out at all other than, when the first, kind of the social distancing and the stay-at-home orders took place. I really was even kind of before then, at home or at the office, and I haven't really even been in the public at all. A couple of weeks ago, I had to run a package to FedEx to just drop something off. And that was really the first time that it truly dawned on me, wow, this is really real life, because there's an element when you're watching it on TV, it feels like you're observing a movie. And because it truly hasn't hit too close to home with regards to me individually, knowing people that have been, with the amount of people that have unfortunately been directly affected by this, but you're starting to see just the effects on people's job status, loved ones that they've been affected, and that's when it really starts to take a toll, and you just hope for a return to normalcy as soon as possible. But it does almost in some instances feel like I'm watching a movie.
Yeah, no kidding. You're a leader, you're a motivator. As a head coach, I wonder if you can coach us up a little bit. How have you been able to keep your days and your tasks on track in ways that might be applicable to us as we go about our business?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, JB, is really establishing a rhythm and a routine. And that's the same thing that you try to do with your players, whether you're operating on a normal day or not. But, everybody talks about, a process that's focused on getting better, doing everything at the highest level that you're capable of doing it at. And then I think also part of that just mindset and mentality of, hey, these are uncertain times for everybody. Let's be empathetic, to the amount of people that are, affected by this. But let's also try to say, what can I do to establish a consistent rhythm and routine that is, geared towards just controlling what I can, getting better. I've talked to a lot of people that have had amazing influences on me that are really using this time allotted to spend precious time with loved ones, do a little bit more reading. There's a lot of things that you can use this time as an opportunity for growth if you allow yourself to focus on those things, because unless you're directly involved in those people that are diligently working to find the solutions, that's really all we can do. Otherwise, it's a lot of emotional energy that's wasted on things that are very, unpredictable, changing by the day, and it really doesn't do anything to be a part of the solution, which is always what we want to try to focus on.
Sean, before we get into the purely football stuff, any members of the organization you think deserve a shout out for enabling you and your staff to continue to do your jobs from home? I can only imagine the logistical disruption.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's been a real credit. I can't say enough about the job Jeff Graves has done. Dan Demetrison, our video coordinator, and his staff. You know, when you look at IT and video with having to operate remotely, it's been a real blessing for us to have those guys leading the way. I think when you look at Billy Nays and James Gladstone, you know, Billy with the coaches, James with the personnel group, just being able to coordinate a lot of these meetings that we've had. From an interactive standpoint, it's allowed us to stay on track. And then I think, you know, Reggie Scott being able to lead the way specific to educating our players, their spouses on what's going on. Jock McClendon has been a great resource to be able to just kind of try to help give some clarity to a really uncertain time. You know, those are the guys that have been the heroes through this and have allowed us to really kind of just stay on track as we're getting ready for the draft preparation and putting together our installation meetings and things like that whenever that time comes that we're able to start communicating with our players.
So you do lead us to the draft, which is now less than 3 weeks away. And like everything in our lives, this is a fluid situation. But we do know the draft will be conducted remotely. Sean, what plans do the Rams have in place so far?
The McVay household appears to be the most likely scenario where we will hold the draft, JB. So, fortunately, it's very convenient. Want to make sure that we don't have any disruptions with the phone lines. But I think, you know, with a lot of the setup, like I mentioned with Jeff and what Dan have enabled, that's going to allow us to be able to operate out of here. You got a little bit of space, and, you know, that's what's looking like the most likely operation for the Rams on April 23rd.
Well, our audience knows that LA, once again, does not have a first-round pick. There's always the potential of trading into Thursday. But assuming the Rams aren't on the clock until day 2, will you use day 1, including at your house, to kind of acclimate to this format and get the kinks out?
No question. Yeah, I was actually talking with Kevin Demoff about that yesterday, JB, and just being able to kind of say, hey, you know, the fortunate thing for us is even though we don't have a first-round pick, we can use it as an opportunity to make sure that any kinks or any things, you know, that we need to get worked out before we truly are on the clock, we can kind of get ahead of that, problem solve, if you will, if anything arises, and just making sure that with the limited amount of people that we'll have as well, we're able to get in touch with the other 31 teams in a timely manner based on being on the clock and how quickly things happen in those short, you know, opportunities where decisions have to be made, and you got to be ready to go.
And with the offseason program already compromised, do you think it's too early to start making contingency plans for potentially having your first in-person contact with your 2020 team, perhaps as late as training camp later this summer? And I guess the real question, Sean, is how much preparation do you think teams need at a minimum to ramp up for a new season?
You know, I think that it's hard to say. I've been a part of, you know, when you look at the lockout back, you know, in the early, you know, 2010s, 11s, you know, those were things that we have been a part of navigating through. I think the league office will do a great job of, if we do have to make adjustments and alterations to the training camp schedule, there's always a consideration for the players' health and safety and making sure that we're diligent in the way that we get guys acclimated. But for us, you know, what we've really tried to do is just operate as, okay, as coaches, you know, we're preparing. I know it's not going to start on that April 20th date, but we're just continuing to go about our business as we're preparing for the draft, and we're going through our installations and making sure that we're doing our due diligence so that if we're able to have, you know, whether it's Microsoft Teams or Zoom meetings with our players, we'll try to keep it as close to what a normal operation would be if the players were present with us in a meeting room setting at the facilities as possible, knowing that that's, you know, that's not exactly how it can be. But what we can do is make sure that we're responsible, we're ready for the information to get to them in a digestible manner. And if we have to do that virtually, we feel like we'll be ready to go, whether that be at training camp or if, you know, if the league allows us to be able to have some sort of interaction on that level.
Yeah, it's especially point you make given the 3 new coordinators that you've hired. Before we get into some off-season transaction stuff, one other big picture item since we last spoke, and that is the league has approved the new 14-team playoff format, Sean, adding one postseason franchise and eliminating one bye from each conference. How do you feel about those changes?
I think it's great. You know, I think you look at how competitive our league is. You know, I think to be able to get the top 7 teams in each conference involved is a big deal. You'd be able to have, you know, 3 wild card games per conference. But then also, I think, having been a part of a team in most recent years where you win your division, but you're playing on a wild card round, but then you also win your division and you get a bye, I think it truly does give you an appreciation for how difficult that is, but what an advantage it creates if you're automatically in the Final Four just based on being the top team in your conference. And I think being able to reward that bye where the top team in each conference, ends up earning that bye, I think it's representative of the importance of what it is. And then I think, to be able to increase the opportunities for a couple other teams to get in, I think that's great for the league and just the overall competition.
While we're at it, do you think the NFL should reconsider playoff seeding based on record rather than guaranteeing home games for division champs?
Good question, JB. I think you can go a lot of different directions, because you're naturally exposed to, really just playing three teams twice a year and how those teams end up stacking up. Sometimes it does create some problems. I haven't really thought that far about it, but what I do think is great is the new playoff format that'll enable 14 as opposed to 12 getting in.
All right, let's dig into some personnel stuff. And even with a couple weeks gone by, Sean, I think the headline is still Todd Gurley. After 5 seasons, including 2 All-Pro campaigns and an Offensive Player of the Year, Todd is no longer a Ram. And I think the question that still lingers for many around, Rams fandom is as simple as why.
Yeah. Here's what I would say is I think the one thing that first comes to mind when you talk about Todd Gurley is the appreciation for what he's done as a Ram, and that took place a couple years even before I got an opportunity to work with him. But when you look at his body of work, this time of the year has especially allotted itself to really go back and study the last 3 years of inventory that we've had since we got here at the coaching staff in the 17th season. And you can't help but be appreciative of everything that he's done. I know he sure has meant a lot to our overall team success, and he's meant a lot to me. Those are decisions that are very difficult. But when I think about Todd Gurley, I think that the respect, the appreciation, and the admiration for all the good memories he's created will hopefully be one of the things that really lasts in the midst of a very difficult decision. And I think he'll do a great job for the Falcons.
I know how intent you are to restore the Rams running game in 2020. Is it a priority to fortify that running back room, or do you feel like you have what you need in-house with Darrell and Malcolm?
I think you certainly feel great about all the things that we hope to see Darrell grow into for some of the reasons that we liked him so much coming out of Memphis. Malcolm Brown, when given the opportunity, has delivered in a big way. So those are 2 players that you have some confidence in. And really, as we move forward, there's a lot of depth in this draft. There's a lot of different types of players. They're all really good football players that provide different skill sets. And I would say if we feel like the value and the type of player that we're looking to add is there when we pick, that's certainly a conversation that'll come up. But we've got some time to continue to navigate through it, but it's also, a representation of the confidence we have in both Malcolm and Darrell and what we hope to see those guys do as they take steps in their career.
Staying with the offense, what was all this retirement talk the last couple of seasons with Andrew Whitworth? And did you have to get Melissa's signature to make it a 3-year deal this time around?
It is, it's amazing, JB. I've developed such a special relationship with him, but I actually got a chance to speak with him in person. And, I said, how amazing is it that we're sitting here 3 years ago? It was unprecedented for you to sign the deal at your age then. And now we're talking about a new opportunity that you want to continue your career. He's feeling better. He was able to get an arthroscopic surgery on that ankle that was able to clean some things up, that he's feeling better than ever. And it is certainly something that's incredible. The influence that he's had on his teammates, really on our building as a whole, can't be understated. And then obviously the production and just the way that he's played kind of speaks for itself. But I still can't even believe that we've got an opportunity to work together for now our 4th season in a row. When he's getting to be up in the 55, 60 years old.
Does the re-signing of Austin Blythe signal that you'd like him to be your starting center in 2020?
I think so. I think he did a really nice job stepping in there. Brian Allen is a young player that we have a lot of confidence in as well. I think you can't have enough players on your roster that have started, have that experience, and you feel confident that you can win football games with those guys competing for you. So one of the things that I was most impressed with, JB, when Austin stepped into that center position was his ability to communicate, the poise, the command, and how that the calm across the line just based on his ability to confidently get out the calls. There was a very similar feel to the things that you loved so much about John Sullivan. I think he and Jared had a great rapport, and we're looking for him to really take steps. And I think he felt comfortable at that center position, just given the skill sets and some of the traits and characteristics he possesses.
Is it too early to declare a front runner at the other three offensive line positions, or do you have a working starting five in mind?
Yeah, you know what? I think we've got a lot of guys we've got a lot of confidence in. I think you look at Rob Havenstein, he's been one of the better right tackles in this league. I have the utmost confidence that he's going to return to playing at a high level. Bobby Evans showed that he's a baller for a younger player. David Edwards is a guy that has a lot of upside that started kind of in some different spots and continued to grow. I love his game day demeanor. Austin Corbett showed the traits and the characteristics that you loved so much a couple years ago, and then I think you see him really doing a nice job at that left guard spot as he continued to settle in and get more familiar with our system as he comes in the middle of the year. And Chandler Brewer, there's a lot of exciting guys. I think we want to just continue to create competitive atmospheres, and Aaron Cromer does such a great job of developing guys that have the ability to play at a handful of different spots, and that's going to be something that's going to be instrumental to our overall success, as we saw last year, that the first couple years of staying that healthy and having that continuity are something that is very much not to be anticipated or expected year in and year out. So we've got to make sure we've got our contingency plans in place.
Every offseason to date has felt like the most important one of Jared Goff's career. That probably won't change anytime soon, but what can and can't a quarterback do under the current circumstances to improve and prepare for a new year?
Yeah, I think what he can do is, with the limitations that he's got at home, I think he can still do some of the physical training, being able to work out, stay in shape, be able to get his throwing sessions in, even if it's in a lot more limited manner, just based on your ability to interact with your teammates and things like that right now. But also the above the neck. I think he's done an excellent job of accumulating a handful of valuable repetitions, especially really over, the first 4 years of his career. But when you look at the 3 years that we've been fortunate to work together, I think there's been a lot of really good things, a lot of things that we can both learn from. And I think my favorite part about what he did last year, JB, which I've seen you kind of reference in your own way, is, people that can demonstrate the ability to work through some adversity are always the people that you bet on and that they're going to come out on the right end of it. And I thought we experienced some adversity, he and I, both collectively together through the middle parts of the season. And I was so proud of the way that Jared finished the season, playing on a high note. I thought he did a great job leading our offense and being really just an instrumental leader for our team. And I think those are things that he knows he can take with him going into the next season. I always have a saying that those who know. And I think his teammates, his coaches know what a huge amount of confidence we have in him. I know he has that internal belief in himself, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of positive things as we continue to move forward into the 2020 season.
What about where the Rams are in the process of establishing a depth chart behind him?
Yeah, we're working through that right now. Obviously, the draft is something, but then when you look at, John Wofford and some of the things that he put on tape, what he was able to do in the preseason, what he does, week in and week out on the practice field, we think he has a huge amount of upside. He's got a lot of abilities and traits and characteristics that you're looking for. And so he's a guy that if given the opportunity, I think he can come in and compete and do a really nice job. And then we'll always look, whether it's through the draft, through free agency, to continue to fill that room out while adding a third and potentially a fourth player to that room.
Sean, as we're up against on the clock, maybe you can just address the changes on your defensive front, holistically, because I know there are a lot of names there and a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, so I think when you look at it from the start, thought we were going to initially lose Michael Brockers for a variety of different reasons. We were fortunate to get him back, and I think that demonstrates a huge win on the Rams' part to be able to continue to work with a player of his caliber. The leadership, the production. I think in a lot of the instances, some of the subtle changes that you'll see on our defensive system and structure and the way that we want to operate he's a great fit that has that versatility, that size, to really play in a variety of spots, really across, over the top of a center, over a guard, on the inside eye of a tackle. He's a guy that has some versatility. We love the fact that we get him back for the production and just the human being and the leadership he provides. Being able to add a player like Leonard Floyd is really big as well. He has some experience in this system that we'll operate with, playing under Coach Staley in Chicago. That versatile, movable piece that can play in coverage. He can rush. He's got great length. He's got, the ability to do so many different things. And, we're really excited about him. And then, you certainly are going to miss Corey Littleton. I thought it was really just awesome to see what he's been able to do over his career to develop himself into an elite player in this league that can do so many different things. And I think the contract and the attention that he had in free agency was certainly earned. And I wish him nothing but the best with the Raiders. And then losing Dante Fowler, is a big loss, but it is something that, I think he did a great job. I thought Chris Shula was outstanding with him. When you look at just the year and a half that we had with him, to see him earn that, you hate to lose him, but you're happy for the player. And then Clay Matthews was another guy that's really difficult to part with JB. You never know how things work themselves out, but he certainly has been a great player, Hall of Fame player, and during the course of his career. And he'll be missed. And I really enjoyed being able to work with him last year. He was outstanding in the games that he played in.
Thanks for that overview. We have to get you out of here. Maybe we can finish with this and a comment you made in February about the intangible priorities you had going into year 4. And I jotted them down. They were, player interaction and real foundational relationships, being present with the coaches. And it made me think football is like an exercise in meetings, right? Team meetings, staff meetings, position rooms, even a huddle. But there's some real world challenges right now standing in the way, maybe of achieving those goals in the short term as we self-isolate. How anxious are you to have the chance to get to work on the culture of this 2020 team? And what can you do to accomplish some of those goals even before you gather again at Thousand Oaks?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just being able to stay connected with the guys, JB. Staying connected with them. Even though we are limited in the face-to-face interaction that we're allowed, just based on everything that's going on, you can still call, you can still FaceTime, and so in a weird way, this actually presents a unique opportunity to stay more connected than maybe you would otherwise. We'll figure out what that interaction entails based on what the league allows with the off-season program window of time that you're typically allotted, if it is virtual meetings or however that goes. But also what's been really good is just some of the personal reflection, being able to read, kind of get back grounded and really not lose sight of what you love so much about this job and the opportunity is the platform it provides to build real authentic relationships. And, in some instances, you hate to admit that you can get caught up in how busy and you lose sight of the real joy and what you get the most out of it. And those are things that I'm excited about trying to put into action and not just say it, but just, let your actions be a representation of how important it is to you.
Well, Sean, thank you for a refreshing and uplifting conversation. Always great to hear from you, and I hope it's not much longer before we can connect again at the team facility.
No question. It's always uplifting with you too, JB. I always appreciate it.
Well, if you want to build maybe a little bit of homeschooling into your daily routine, I can get a Zoom call organized with a few interested parties.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a bunch of my buddies that have younger kids that they're working to homeschool. I said, how is it? They said, it's been great. I love my kids so much, but I also realize everything their teachers complain about is 100% true.
I've got a lesson plan upcoming, so I'll get to that. We'll let you get on with your Monday. Thank you, Sean.
That sounds great. Thanks, JB.
As for our audience, before you go, please do take a moment to rate this podcast and leave us a review. And if you've made it this far, give me a shout on social media. When we had General Manager Les Snead on, we were blown away with the response from those of you who are still hanging in at the end of that hour. I know Les really appreciated that as well. We hope this was a temporary reprieve from the isolation we're all dealing with. Sounds like we may have another Rams revealed for you by the end of this week even, so make sure you subscribe and keep an eye out for that. Lastly, if there's anything I can do for you during stay at home, please do reach out. Would love to connect. Thanks to Matt Israel. Thanks to Jory Hirsch. Thanks to Artis Twyman. I'm JB Long, voice of your Los Angeles Rams, and this is Rams Revealed.